Smash the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment if you're ready for a case that starts with flashing lights and ends with blood in the dark. The siren screamed through the trees as squad cars tore down Route 41, tires hissing on wet pavement, radios crackling with half-panicked updates. Officer Daniel Mercer had stopped responding 6 minutes earlier. His GPS showed his cruiser motionless on the shoulder of the highway, a lonely stretch of road that cut through miles of forest and farmland. No nearby houses, no cameras, no witnesses, just darkness. When the first unit arrived, Mercer patrol car sat crooked beside the white line, engine still running, driver's door wide open. The red and blue lights flash against empty trees. The Bodycam lay on the asphalt near the rear tire, blinking like a heartbeat. Mercer was gone. They found him 40 yards in the woods, face up beneath tall pines, his uniform soaked dark at the chest. His radio was crushed beside him. His weapon was missing. His eyes were open, frozen on nothing. The paramedic checked for a pulse, then looked up slowly. He's gone. Silence fell over the clearing, thick and heavy. A cop was dead, and no one knew who had done it. But the body cam was still recording. Detective Laura Henson arrived just after midnight, breath fogging in the cold air. She'd worked homicide long enough to know when a case felt wrong. This one felt poison from the start. Mercer wasn't some reckless rookie. He was a steady patrolman with a clean record, a wife, a 9-year-old daughter, and a reputation for handling traffic stops calmly and by the book, which meant something had gone horribly off script. "Walk me through it," Laura said. A sergeant pointed to the dark sedan parked up the road. Broken taillight stop. Driver ID'd as Mark Caldwell. No priors. Clean registration. Mercer was issuing a warning when it went bad. And Caldwell, gone. Laura turned toward the woods where Mercer's body lay. "How gone?" "Vanished. On foot, we think." She nodded slowly. "Let's see the footage." Inside the mobile command van, officers crowded around a monitor as the body cam playback began. The view showed Mercer walking toward a dark sedan, fog drifting across the road. The driver rolled down the window. "Evening, sir," Mercer said calmly. "Do you know why I stopped you?" "No, officer." "You've got a broken taillight." "License and registration." The driver handed them over. "His name?" "Mark Caldwell. Mid-30s. Clean cut. Calm. Almost friendly." Mercer ran the info. Nothing came back. No warrants. No flags. When he returned, Mercer handed Caldwell his documents. "I'm just going to give you a warning tonight. Get that taillight fixed." "Appreciate it." Mercer turned away. Then Caldwell spoke. "Officer." "Yes." "I think something's wrong with my trunk." Mercer paused. "What do you mean?" "I hit a pothole back there. Feels like something broke loose. You want to take a look?" "If you don't mind." Mercer hesitated, then walked toward the rear of the car. That's when Caldwell opened his door. "Sir, please stay in your vehicle," Mercer said. "Yeah, sorry. Just curious." He stood too close now, behind Mercer, slightly to his left. The camera picked up Mercer's subtle shift, the tightening in his shoulders. "Go ahead and hop back in," Mercer said. "Right." But Caldwell didn't move. "Officer," he said, "you ever feel like people get stopped for the wrong reasons?" Mercer glanced at him. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Just seems like some people get lucky," Caldwell said, "and some don't." Mercer closed the trunk without opening it. "Sir, return to your vehicle." Caldwell smiled. Not friendly, not threatening, just wrong. "Do you know what's in that trunk?" he asked quietly. "What?" "You didn't even open it." Mercer's hand drifted closer to his belt. "That's not relevant. Back in the car." "I don't think so." Then Caldwell lunged. The camera jerked violently as Mercer stumbled. Gravel scraped. Someone grunted. The view tilted sideways, catching the headlights, the sky. Then Caldwell's face, twisted, urgent, desperate. "Get back!" Mercer shouted. Something metal clattered to the ground. "You shouldn't have stopped me," Caldwell said. The camera slammed into dirt, the lens filled with leaves and soil. But the audio kept rolling, breathing, heavy, Strained. Stop resisting. Mercer yelled. Footsteps. A struggle. Fabric tearing. Then a sharp, wet sound. Mercer gasped. A low, choking noise followed, raw and broken. I warned you, Caldwell said, his voice close now, almost calm. Then a loud, hollow pop. Silence. The recording continued for 2 more minutes. No movement. No voices. Just wind through trees and distant traffic. When the video ended, the van was silent. Someone whispered, Jesus. Laura didn't speak. Her eyes were locked on the frozen frame of dirt and leaves. This wasn't panic. This wasn't self-defense. This was an execution. By morning, news of Mercer's death flooded national headlines. Reporters descended on Cedar Falls. Social media exploded with rage, grief, and speculation. The public wanted a name, a face, a motive. Police had one thing, Mark Caldwell. They searched his listed address, a small apartment near downtown. Inside, they found empty rooms, closets stripped, no clothes, no electronics, no photos. Even the walls showed pale outlines where frames once hung. He didn't run, Laura said. He evacuated. A neighbor reported seeing Caldwell loading boxes into his car late the night before. Another said he'd mentioned starting fresh. Starting fresh where? Then forensics found something else, hidden behind a loose drywall panel in the bedroom closet. A folded medical discharge report. Diagnosis: stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Terminal. Estimated life expectancy: less than 6 months. Laura stared at the paper, heart pounding. So he wasn't running from the law, her partner muttered. He was running out of time. Terminal illness changed everything. People with nothing to lose didn't behave like everyone else. They made choices that scared even themselves. But terminal patients don't kill cops, Laura said, unless they're hiding something. That something came into focus when crime techs opened Caldwell's trunk. Inside, they found blood, not pooled, not soaked, smeared, as if something bleeding had been dragged in or out. There was duct tape, plastic sheeting, a shovel, no body. This wasn't about a taillight, Laura said. He was transporting something. Or someone. Fingerprint analysis showed Caldwell's prints inside the trunk, and partials that didn't match Mercer's or Caldwell's. Someone else had been in there, alive, at some point. This just became a missing persons case, an officer said. Or worse, Laura replied. They pulled Caldwell's phone records. His last outgoing call, 3 hours before the stop, went to an unlisted number. His last text, sent 2 minutes before Mercer walked up to his window, read, I'm almost there. No reply. No follow-up. Just a silence. Almost where? Almost there with what? Laura replayed the Bodycam footage again, focusing on Caldwell's words. Do you know what's in that trunk? He hadn't been bluffing. He'd been warning Mercer. Then came the detail no one was prepared for. A technician recovered corrupted audio from the final seconds of the Bodycam recording, buried beneath static and wind. It was faint, nearly inaudible, but unmistakable. A whisper, help me? Laura felt the blood drain from her face. That's not Mercer, she said. No, the tech replied. Different voice. The room went silent. That meant someone else had been near the scene after Mercer was shot. Someone alive. Someone unseen. Someone who hadn't been found. Laura stood slowly. This wasn't just a murder, she said. This was a cover-up. Her phone buzzed before anyone could respond. Another officer had just reported something strange. A park ranger had found a shallow grave 6 miles north of Route 41. Disturbed soil, footprints nearby, but no body inside. Just blood and duct tape. Laura closed her eyes. Whatever Caldwell had been moving in that trunk wasn't finished yet, and whoever whispered for help on that recording might still be alive. The shallow grave sat at the edge of Pine Hollow Park, half hidden beneath fallen leaves and branches, as if whoever dug it had rushed or panicked before covering their tracks. Yellow tape fluttered between trees, crime scene lights casting harsh white circles against the forest floor. The hole itself was empty, but the blood stains in the dirt told a story no one wanted to hear. Someone had been here. Someone had bled here. And someone had been moved. Detective Laura Henson crouched at the edge of the pit, gloved fingers brushing against disturbed soil. The duct tape recovered nearby matched the roll found in Caldwell's trunk. So did the plastic sheeting fragments tangled in roots at the base of the grave. It wasn't coincidence. It was confirmation. Whatever Caldwell had been transporting, he'd stopped here first. But why dig a grave and then leave it empty? Maybe he got interrupted, her partner said. Or maybe the plan changed, Laura replied. She stood and stared into the trees. Either way, someone was meant to be buried here. By noon, Caldwell's face was everywhere. News stations looped his driver's license photo beside Mercer's patrol image. The narrative was simple. Cop killed during traffic stop. Suspect terminally ill. Manhunt underway. But the truth was already darker. The unknown voice on the body cam haunted Laura. The whisper hadn't sounded panicked. It hadn't screamed. It had sounded weak. Fading. As if whoever said it didn't have the strength to shout. Run it again, Laura told the tech. The audio crackled, then help me. That's not a bystander, Laura said quietly. That's someone who's been restrained. Which meant Caldwell hadn't just murdered an officer. He'd been transporting a victim. And Mercer had stopped him in the middle of something far worse. They traced Caldwell's last phone call to a prepaid burner registered under a fake name. But the cell tower ping placed it near a closed manufacturing warehouse outside town, a building that had once been used for cold storage and shipping, but had been abandoned for years. Laura and two detectives drove out just before dusk. The warehouse at the edge of an industrial zone, surrounded by cracked asphalt and rusted fencing. Broken windows stared blankly at the road. The loading dock doors hung crooked, like loose teeth. Looks dead, her partner muttered. Dead places are where people hide things, Laura said. They entered through a side door, flashlights cutting through dust and darkness. The inside smelled like mold and oil. Empty shelves stretched into shadows. Old forklifts sat frozen mid-task. They found the first sign near the back office, a drag mark across the concrete floor. Not blood, not dirt, something heavier, something that had been moved unwillingly. Laura followed the trail to a metal door labeled cold storage, out of order. The padlock hung open. Inside, the temperature dropped sharply. The room was lined with stainless steel racks, long since emptied, but the smell hit them immediately. Rot. Not death, not yet, but decay. Near the far wall, they found a discarded for bag and a blood-stained towel. On the floor lay medical tubing, coiled like a dead snake. This isn't a kidnapping, her partner said. This is medical. Laura's pulse quickened, or experimental. Then they found the chair, bolted to the concrete floor, metal arms fitted with leather restraints. The straps were torn, ripped apart with desperate force. Blood smeared the seat and dripped down the legs. Someone had been tied here. Someone had bled here. Someone had escaped, or been moved. Laura felt the room closing in. This isn't Caldwell acting alone. No, her partner said. This is organized. And that meant the danger wasn't over. They ran the warehouse lease. It didn't belong to Caldwell. It belonged to a shell company, one that traced back to a private medical research contractor based in Minnesota. That's when the case cracked open. The contractor specialized in experimental cancer treatments, unapproved therapies, high-risk trials, desperate patients, no guarantees. Caldwell had terminal pancreatic cancer, Laura said. Maybe he was part of some underground treatment program. But that doesn't explain duct tape and shallow graves, her partner replied. No, Laura said. That explains motive. Desperate people do desperate things. And desperate doctors? They do worse. 2 hours later, they got another call. A hospital in the next county had admitted a woman with severe dehydration, bruised wrists, and chemical burns on her arm. She collapsed at a gas station bathroom and begged the clerk to call 911. Her name was Rachel Moore, 32 years old, and she had no memory of how she got there. Laura arrived just as the trauma team stabilized her. Rachel lay pale beneath hospital lights, for lines running into her arms, eyes darting to every movement in the room. "Rachel," Laura said softly, "I'm Detective Henson. You're safe now." Rachel swallowed. "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are," Laura said. "No one here can hurt you." Rachel shook her head. "You don't understand. They'll find me." "Who will?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "The doctors." Laura froze. "What doctors?" Rachel looked at her wrists, where faint bruises ringed the skin. "The ones who said they were helping me." Rachel explained in fragments, her memory broken by trauma and sedation. 6 months earlier, she'd been diagnosed with an aggressive autoimmune disorder that had resisted treatment. Her condition worsened. Pain, organ failure risk. Her doctors gave her limited options. Then she received an email, a private research group offering an experimental therapy. Cutting edge, unapproved, high risk but promising. Patients were screened quietly, selected carefully, treated off the books. "It sounded like hope," Rachel whispered. "I was dying." They flew her to Cedar Falls, picked her up at the airport in an unmarked car, took her to a warehouse facility where other patients waited, 6 of them, all sick, all desperate. They said it was a temporary clinic, she said, just until the trial ended. At first, the treatment were simple: blood draws, injections, monitoring. Then things changed. "They stopped letting us leave," Rachel said. "Said it was for safety, for confidentiality." She showed Laura burn marks along her arm. Then they started using chemicals, experimental compounds. They wouldn't tell us what they were. One patient died. Another vanished. Then a man named Mark Caldwell arrived. He was sicker than anyone, Rachel said, barely walking, but he asked too many questions. "What kind of questions?" Laura asked. About the other patients. About why people weren't coming back from procedures. Laura's stomach twisted. "And what happened to them?" Rachel closed her eyes. "I don't know, but I heard screaming." Rachel said Caldwell had grown suspicious, especially after a woman named Denise disappeared following a late-night procedure. "He told me he thought they were harvesting something," Rachel whispered. "Organs, tissue, something illegal." Laura's pulse quickened. "What did he do?" "He tried to get help." Rachel said Caldwell secretly stole a phone from a technician and called the police, but the call failed. No signal. The warehouse blocked reception. So he made a plan. He said he'd get one of us out, Rachel said, and then go to the authorities himself. That night, Caldwell attacked a guard, stole a car, and freed Rachel from her restraints. "He told me to hide," she said. "Said he'd drive me somewhere safe and come back for the others." But they never made it far. "He started coughing blood," Rachel said. "Could barely stay conscious. I was in the trunk. He said it was the safest way to get me out unnoticed." Laura closed her eyes. That meant Rachel had been in the trunk during Mercer's traffic stop. The whisper on the Bodycam. "Help me?" Rachel nodded weakly. "That was me." Laura felt the room tilt. "He told me if he got pulled over, not to make a sound," Rachel said. "He said everything would be okay." But then Mercer asked about the trunk. "He panicked," Rachel said. "He told me later he thought they were tracking him." "Who?" Laura asked. "The doctors, the men from the warehouse." Rachel's voice trembled. "He said if they caught us, they'd kill us both." Laura's chest tightened. And then I heard yelling, a struggle, then a gunshot. Rachel started shaking. The car stopped. I stayed still. I was too scared to breathe. Laura's throat went dry. "What happened next?" "The trunk opened," Rachel whispered. "But it wasn't Mark." Laura felt cold spread through her limbs. "It was another man," Rachel said. "Not a police officer. He wore gloves. He said, 'You're not supposed to be here.'" Laura's heart slammed. "Did he hurt you?" she asked. "He pulled me out," Rachel said. "Told me to run into the woods and never look back." "Did you see Mark?" "No," Rachel said. "But I heard someone dragging something. Then I ran." She collapsed at the gas station hours later. Laura stared at the hospital wall, mind racing. That meant Caldwell hadn't killed Mercer. Or at least not alone. Someone else had been at the scene. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Laura brought the hospital room to lockdown and alerted command. "There's another suspect," she said. "Possibly multiple." "Who?" "People running an illegal medical operation," Laura said. "And they were tracking Caldwell." "Tracking how?" "We don't know yet." But the timeline was terrifyingly clear. Caldwell freed Rachel and fled. Mercer stopped him. Caldwell panicked. But someone else arrived. Someone who silenced Mercer. Someone who removed Rachel. Someone who vanished. They re-examined the crime scene footage. Just after the gunshot, there was a faint rustle, not leaves, fabric, footsteps, then a second set of breathing patterns. Not Mercer. Not Caldwell. Someone else had been there, just outside the camera's view. Laura felt a chill crawl up her spine. "This wasn't a traffic stop gone wrong," she said. "This was a retrieval." By midnight, warrants were issued for the warehouse company. Federal agencies were looped in. The building was raided. Inside, they found 6 empty patient files, 2 incomplete medical charts, and 1 sealed freezer unit that hadn't been there before. Inside the freezer, wrapped in plastic, was a body, female, mid-30s, organ removal scars stitched poorly across her torso. Name, Denise Carter. Time of death, 3 days before Mercer was killed. Laura stared at the body bag, jaw clenched. "They weren't curing anyone," she said. "They were harvesting them." Her phone buzzed. Another body had just been discovered, in a drainage ditch 5 miles south of the highway. Male, gunshot wound, terminal cancer patient. Name, Mark Caldwell. Laura closed her eyes. Caldwell hadn't escaped. He hadn't vanished. He'd been executed, which meant the killer who murdered Mercer was still free. And now they knew something worse. Rachel wasn't the only survivor. According to the files, there had been 6 patients. 1 was dead, 1 was missing, 1 had escaped, and 3 more were unaccounted for. Laura looked up slowly. "This isn't over," she said. And then the lights went out. Every screen in the command center went black. Radios crackled with static, and Laura's phone buzzed with a final incoming message from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you're next." The power outage lasted 90 seconds. That was all it took to turn the command center into chaos. Screens went black. Radios hissed into static. Phones lost signal. For a moment, the room felt sealed off from the world, blind, deaf, and vulnerable. Officers reached for flashlights. Someone cursed. Someone else shouted for generators. Laura Henson didn't move. She stared at her phone. "Stop digging, or you're next." That wasn't a threat. That was proof. Proof that whoever murdered Officer Mercer was watching. And close. Backup power kicked in, monitors flickering back to life. Dispatch confirmed the outage wasn't citywide, just localized the police operations network. Targeted. Laura muttered. She forwarded the message to cybercrime and ordered immediate protective detail for Rachel Moore at the hospital. Then she turned back to the evidence board, the warehouse photos, the Bodycam stills, Caldwell's medical records, the shallow grave. 3 patients unaccounted for, 1 survivor, 2 dead, and 1 police officer executed. Whoever ran the operation wasn't just desperate. They were disciplined and dangerous. The breakthrough came from the most unlikely place. Caldwell's old laptop, recovered from a storage locker rented under his sister's name. Digital forensics cracked it late that night. Inside, they found encrypted files, emails, recordings, a digital journal. Caldwell had been documenting everything. The emails were between Caldwell and someone using the alias Dr. R. They detailed experimental procedures, off-the-books treatments, and donor material acquisitions. The language was clinical, cold, stripped of humanity. But Caldwell's journal was different. Day 11. 2 patients didn't return from treatment. Staff says complications. No bodies. No funerals. No families notified. Something's wrong. Day 16. Found blood in the prep room. No explanation. They say it's from routine biopsies. It isn't. Day 19. Denise disappeared. I heard screaming through the ventilation ducts. I think they're killing people. Then came the final entry. Time-stamped 3 hours before Mercer's traffic stop. I'm getting Rachel out tonight. If I don't make it, someone has to know what they're doing here. Attached was a video file. They opened it. Caldwell had recorded secretly on his phone inside the warehouse. The footage was grainy, shaky, but unmistakable. Patients restrained to metal chairs. For lines feeding unknown compounds into their veins. A woman screaming as masked figures worked around her abdomen. Then the camera panned to a man in a lab coat. His face was visible, and Laura recognized him. Dr. Victor Hale, a respected oncologist, former research director at a prestigious university hospital, a man who'd lost his medical license 2 years earlier after whistleblowers accused him of falsifying clinical trial data. Charges had been dropped due to lack of evidence. Laura felt her pulse hammer. "Found you," she whispered. They moved fast. Federal agents were looped in. Warrants were issued. Every known associate of Hale's underground research network was flagged. Surveillance units deployed across 3 states. Rachel was relocated under armed guard to a secure facility. Laura personally visited her before dawn. "They found him," Laura said softly. "The man who ran the place." Rachel swallowed. "Is he coming for me?" "Not if we get to him first." Rachel hesitated. "He will." Laura studied her. "Why?" "Because he doesn't see people," Rachel said. "He sees materials." That word stuck with Laura. Materials. Not patients. Not victims. Supplies. They tracked Hale to a private clinic operating under a shell company in northern Wisconsin, remote, surrounded by forest, disguised as a wellness retreat. Thermal imaging confirmed activity inside the building despite its official status as closed for renovation. Armed units staged outside before dawn. Laura watched through binoculars as agents took positions. Her radio crackled softly with updates. Perimeter secure. Thermal shows for inside. Moving in. The breach was silent. Flashbangs shattered windows. Doors slammed inward. Shouts echoed through hallways. Federal agents. "Get on the ground." Laura rushed in behind them. The inside of the building was worse than the warehouse. This wasn't improvised. This was professional. Operating rooms. Sterilization stations. Medical freezers. Blood storage units. She felt bile rise in her throat. In the back wing, agents found 2 restrained patients, alive but barely conscious, for lines fed unknown substances into their veins. One of them was a teenage boy. "Get medics!" someone shouted. They rushed the victims out. But Hale wasn't among them. "He's not here," an agent said. "He was here an hour ago," another replied. "Vehicle just left." Laura felt dread tighten in her chest. "He's running," she said, "and he knows we're coming." They tracked Hale's vehicle south, toward Cedar Falls, toward Rachel. Laura's phone buzzed. Hospital security. "Detective, we just lost power on Rachel's floor." Laura's heart slammed. "Lock the doors," she snapped. "Do not move her." "We can't," the guard said. "The access system's down." Laura sprinted for her car. By the time she reached the hospital, the emergency generators had kicked in, but the damage was done. Rachel's room was empty. Her foreleg ripped for her arm, blood smeared across the sheets. The window was open. The security camera feed from the hallway looped. Frozen on a frame from 3 minutes earlier. Hale had learned. Hale had adapted. Hale had taken her. Laura drove without sirens, teeth clenched, heart hammering. "He's correcting his mistake," she whispered. He hadn't meant for Rachel to escape. He hadn't meant for Caldwell to interfere. And he hadn't meant for Mercer to die. But he hadn't cared either. Now he was cleaning up. They tracked Hale's car via license plate readers. Eastbound on Route 41. The same highway. The same stretch of road. Laura's stomach dropped. "He's going back to the scene," she said into the radio. "He's going back where this started." They found Hale's car abandoned near Pine Hollow Park, just yards from the shallow grave. Headlights off, engine cold. Footprints led into the woods. Laura followed them, weapon drawn, breath fogging the night air. "Rachel," she shouted. "Rachel, it's Laura. If you hear me, respond." No answer. The forest was silent, except for wind through branches and distant traffic. Then she saw it. A flashlight beam, faint, shaking, deeper among the trees. She moved toward it slowly. "Federal agents," she shouted. "Drop whatever you're holding." The light cut off. A twig snapped. Footsteps ran. Laura sprinted. She burst into a clearing and froze. Rachel was tied to a tree, wrist bound behind her back, duct tape across her mouth. Her eyes widened in terror when she saw Laura. Across from her stood Victor Hale, holding a handgun. His lab coat was gone. He wore dark clothes, blending into the trees. His expression wasn't angry. It was irritated. "You've made this very inconvenient," he said calmly. "Drop the weapon." Laura said, gun raised. Hale smiled faintly. "You should understand. This was necessary work." "Necessary," Laura said. "You butchered people." "I saved data," Hale replied. "Progress requires sacrifice." Laura's grip tightened. "That's not science. That's murder." "Semantics," he said. "These patients were dying anyway. I gave their deaths meaning." Rachel whimpered behind the tape. Hale glanced at her. "She's particularly valuable. Rare autoimmune markers. Her tissue responses are remarkable." Laura felt rage surge through her. "She's a human being." Hale shrugged. So were the others. Then his eyes shifted, past Laura. She knew what was coming. She fired. The shot echoed through the forest. Hale staggered backward, clutching his shoulder, gun dropping into the leaves. Laura rushed forward, kicking the weapon away, slamming him to the ground. He screamed, not in pain, but in frustration. "You ruined everything," he shouted. Laura cuffed him, breathing hard. "You ruined everything." Agents rushed into the clearing seconds later. Medics freed Rachel, wrapping her in blankets as she sobbed into Laura's shoulder. "It's over," Laura whispered. "You're safe." Rachel shook her head weakly. He said there were more. Laura stiffened. "More what?" "Places," Rachel whispered. "More clinics." Laura's blood ran cold. Hale confessed within hours. Not out of remorse. Out of arrogance. He explained his operation in clinical detail. The recruitment of desperate patients, the unregulated treatments, the extraction of organs and tissue for experimental transplantation trials. He spoke of inevitable losses and necessary attrition. He admitted to Denise's murder. He admitted to abducting Rachel. He admitted to killing Mark Caldwell. But when asked about Officer Mercer, he paused. "I didn't intend to kill the officer," Hale said. "He was collateral." "Did Caldwell kill him?" Laura asked. Hale shook his head. "No." "Then who did?" "I did," Hale said calmly. He saw too much. The room fell silent. "You shot a police officer," Laura said, "in cold blood." "He was in the way," Hale replied. "Like Caldwell." Laura leaned forward. "Then why didn't you kill Rachel?" Hale smiled faintly. "I needed her alive." Laura's hands trembled. The fallout was explosive. Federal investigations uncovered 3 more illegal clinics across state lines. Dozens of patients were rescued. More bodies were found, buried in unmarked graves, dumped in rivers, hidden in freezers. Victor Hale was charged with multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, human trafficking, and medical fraud. Prosecutors sought life without parole. Rachel survived. Slowly. With therapy, protection, and time, she began rebuilding her life. But Laura couldn't escape the Bodycam footage. The whisper, the gunshot, the silence. She attended Officer Mercer's funeral with thousands of others, police from across the country lining the streets in silent tribute. His daughter clutched her mother's hand as bagpipes cried into gray sky. Laura stood among them, jaw tight, eyes burning. Mercer hadn't died in a random act of violence. He died because he stopped a man at the wrong moment, and uncovered something monstrous. 3 months later, Victor Hale was sentenced to life in federal prison without parole. The media called it justice. Laura didn't. Justice would have meant Mercer going home that night. Justice would have meant Denise still breathing. Justice would have meant Rachel never climbing into a trunk to escape death. But justice, Laura had learned, was rarely clean. It was just what remained. One night, months later, Laura sat alone in her office, staring at Mercer's body cam footage one last time. She watched the traffic stop, the smile, the tension, the struggle, the gunshot. Then she listened carefully to the audio after the shot. Wind, silence, and something else. Faint, almost imperceptible. Footsteps walking away. She froze. Those footsteps weren't Hale's. Hale had admitted to shooting Mercer, but the audio suggested someone else had been there too. Someone who left. Someone unaccounted for. Laura felt her pulse quicken. She pulled up the case files again. Hale's associates, technicians, financiers. And one name stood out. A security contractor who'd vanished during the raids. Never arrested. Never questioned. Never found. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You should have stopped digging. Laura stared at the screen. Then she slowly smiled. Not this time, she whispered. She grabbed her coat. 3 weeks later, another body was discovered in a storage unit outside Chicago. Same surgical precision. Same organ removal patterns. Same signature. Authorities said it was an isolated incident. Laura knew better. They thought the killer was behind bars. But someone else had been watching. Someone else had learned. And somewhere out there, the operation wasn't over. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe so you don't miss it.